Beltway media is calibrated to cover fights that are left versus right, occasionally far right versus right. But left versus left, Democrats contending with liberals, liberals fighting out something among themselves even. You can stick that in your alternative weekly, bucko. In the Beltway media, the left barely exists at all, let alone as a heterogeneous, complicated, dynamic thing. And that's why there's been a bit of a say what reaction to the big substantive debate that's actually going on within the left, between people left of center, about President Obama's Supreme Court nominee, Elena Kagan. Back in March, when Elena Kagan's name was surfacing seriously as a potential nominee, this was the dismayed response from Michael Ratner at the Center for Constitutional Rights. He said at the time, quote, "I want a Brennan or a Marshall, someone clearly on the liberal side. I don't think Kagan is at that end of the liberal spectrum. Why they would put someone in who might not be a liberal anchor for the court is really bothersome, and I don't see Kagan playing that role." Others on the left, most prominently my friend Glenn Greenwald at Salon.com, have argued that Kagan's lack of an overt track record on liberal causes means that liberals shouldn't take it on faith that she will be an ideologically consistent replacement for John Paul Stevens. Other folks left of center who support Kagan have said essentially, don't worry about that lack of a track record. Look at her political affiliations. She left a promising career in academia twice, both times to go into politics. First, she took a leave from a tenured full professorship at the University of Chicago to be a lawyer in the Clinton administration. And then last year, she gave up being dean of Harvard Law to become Solicitor General in the Obama administration, two Democratic administrations. In 1993, Kagan also worked as a special counsel for then-Senator Joe Biden on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Joe Biden, Democrat. Now Vice President Biden's chief of staff, Ron Klain, told reporters on her nomination day that Kagan is, quote, clearly a legal progressive. The more entertaining anecdotal evidence of her political affiliations goes back to election night 1980, when as a Princeton student, Elena Kagan says she drowned her sorrows in vodka and tonic upon hearing the news that Democrat Elizabeth Holtzman had lost a New York Senate race to Republican Al D'Amato. So during her whole inscrutable blank slate legal career, sort of, Elena Kagan has been associated with the Democratic Party. Calm down, everyone. The thing is, you know who else is associated with the Democratic Party? Ben Nelson. He's a Democrat. Joe Lieberman, he caucuses with the Democrats. There are many, many people associated with the Democratic Party who I would put significantly to the right of John Paul Stevens. And unless Stevens, as a solid liberal, is replaced with an equally solid liberal, the court will shift to the right. Adding to liberals' worries are memos from Kagan's time as a political aide to President Clinton, dug up by the Associated Press from the Clinton Library this week. Two of the memos show Elena Kagan commenting on the great unmentionable in Supreme Court nomination processes: abortion. The memos suggest a relatively conservative stance, depending on how you look at it. Nothing particularly damning, but nothing that would make you pin a Trust Women button on her lapel either. This is all we have so far. That, and she worked for Democrats. Have faith, ye of little faith. Joining us now is Dahlia Lithwick, senior editor and legal correspondent for Slate.com. Dahlia, it's great to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back.
Is there something in these memos that is important, that hints at all on how she might vote on abortion rights, on something like Roe v. Wade?
I don't think so, Rachel. I think that these memos were done in a policy capacity. She was working for the Office of Domestic Policy for Bruce Reed, her boss, who I should note is a contributor to Slate. And this is a strategic memo. I mean, this is not a constitutional treatise. This is advising President Clinton how to thread the needle between one abortion bill and an amendment, and what he should do in order to get cover when the Senate passes a different bill. So I look at this as analogous actually to what she did at Harvard when the whole Solomon Amendment military recruiters came up, which is she's just a really good tactician. She's a great strategist. Now, if she, you expect her to be Bill Brennan and fling up her arms and say, I quit, but for the right of women to choose, I quit. she's not that person. But it seems to me that this tells you more about her political skills, her much-touted ability to have some savvy about how to game a lot of different players than it tells you about anything substantive that she believes on abortion. I mean, this is something that happens to have the word abortion in it, Rachel, and because, as you said, there's such a scanty record to look at, everybody's running around and setting themselves on fire on both sides. It seems to me this tells us exactly what we already know, which is she is a really good strategic thinker.
And is that good strategic thinking, is that ability, as you're saying, to play people off against one another, to thread the needle, to find the tactical way forward that's going to work for the most stakeholders involved, that seems to me to have a really direct policy and political application. I don't actually know how that functions among the 9 people on the Supreme Court, though. Is that the I can persuade moderate justices, people I can persuade and build a majority sort of skill that people have ascribed to her?
Well, that's certainly, I think, part of what President Obama is gambling on right now, is he's saying, I don't want another Brennan on the court. I don't want somebody who writes passionate dissents. I want somebody who's going to get that 5th vote. And I think he is very, very confident. And I should add, I mean, you heard Professor Lessig say it the other night. People who know her, who have worked with her, students who have been in her classes, all attest to this really compelling ability that she has to reframe things so that people, as you say, all the stakeholders feel like they've been listened to. And so I think whether it works or not is a kind of interesting normative question. I don't really know. As I've suggested, I don't think a lot of the justices right now on the conservative wing of the court are really in play. But I do think that Obama's both sending a signal about not wanting to pack the court with ideologues, and I think hoping that in the future she's going to become a very, very effective justice at getting to 5.
Dahlia Lithwick, senior editor and legal correspondent for Slate.com. Thank you again so much for joining us, and I will keep you on a short leash if you don't mind.
Thanks, Rachel.
Appreciate it.